A roll call. We'll start on this side, going that way. Brian?
Brian Payne. Brian Lewis.
Richard Fletcher.
Ruth Gage. Diane McCarthy.
Lee Sperry.
Elizabeth DuBrule. Liz Mitchell.
Shea Sennett.
Joseph Earl.
Lisa Jukes.
Sammy Tremblay.
Mark Lemay, Selectman's Rep.
Pete Georgiantis, Chairman. And we're going to get started with the school presentations tonight. I was wondering, Diane, are you just going to answer the questions and refer, if there are any, to the audience?
We are fortunate enough to have a
Just
great
about
crowd
everybody
tonight.
here, right?
So most certainly, I think between us all, we can manage questions.
Okay. The only thing I would ask is for the scribe that we make sure we speak, that we say your name so she knows who's speaking. Diane, is there anything you want to start with specific, or just start page one and go?
It's where you guys want to go. It's totally up to you.
Okay, let's just start right here on what I have is the district-wide. Well, it's page one, it's district-wide. You have district-
You know, we have, based on some questions you guys have asked before, we do have a small handout that's prepared that is getting all the different changes that have been called to your attention over the last few presentations into
Right.
one smaller document. Is that something you find helpful?
Yeah, do you have,
We have enough. Okay. There you go. There you go. Thanks.
The package that's going around, what we've tried to do is to condense over 2,000 budget line items and 300 pages of detail into a 9 or 10-page summary exhibit. What it does is summarize all of the costs in the budget at the functional level by location. For example, regular education, special education, building and grounds. And what we've tried to do is to include a one-liner in there describing the changes and the reasons for the changes. The numbers that you're going to be looking at on this particular exhibit, for comparison's sake, we have the actual cost for the year just ended on June 30th, the voted budget for this school year, that was the number passed by the voters back in March. There's a third column, which is the administration proposed budget to the school board, the school board's budget presentation to you folks, and then we have some percentage changes, looking at the school board's budget and comparing it to this year's budget on a percent basis, and then taking the changes, again, school board budget to this year's budget, and dollarizing what those changes are. They're either pluses or minuses. Again, by district line, then we have each of the remaining schools, all summarized in the same fashion. We can run through this and review the detail that's here, and if we need to get into specifics, then perhaps we can jump into the 300 pages worth of detail to try to answer specific questions.
And Ray, this is just summarizing the presentations that have already been given over the last several
Yes,
weeks.
yes.
So this is all information everybody already has.
Right.
It's just condensing it into one document.
This will serve as a refresh, and then if we need to explore in any more depth, all of us will be able to support your questions this evening.
This is very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, well, is that sufficient with everybody? Any problems with that? Joe, you understand what we're doing, right, everybody? We're just going to go off of their summary sheet,
Okay.
and then if there's a question on it, then we can dig into the detail.
Diane, you want me to lead, or?
I guess, again, it just really depends if
Well,
anybody
yeah,
here at this
let's-
table has questions.
I would say if you want to have Ray just give us an overview of it, I mean, it's not that big of a...
Sure.
And if you're going to do that, Ray, I would ask that maybe we could get him up to the table somehow, so he is at the mic.
Scoot over.
We don't want to deprive the public of any information.
The first page that we're looking at is our attempt to answer a question posed by Guy Karen last week, and that is, what are the important additions or the important elements of the budget that's being proposed? And our Human Resources Director, Kate McGrath, was good enough to put together this staffing summary sheet. This reflects all of the new positions that are being requested in the budget, how many hours per day, number of days, etc., what the wage and benefit costs would be, and what the total cost is for those specific individuals. You might recall from the earlier presentations, we were looking for a district grounds custodian to service all of the individual schools. We were looking to add a special education teacher at Bartlett. Mr. Bousquet had given us rationale at that time for that position. Talked about adding a half-time media specialist at Bartlett. Again, the rationale was to support the current media specialist that's there and to allow the media specialist to spend more instructional time with students and pupils. We had talked about a new grade 8 teacher at Mountain View Middle School. And the reason for that, you might recall the discussion of a bubble moving up through the ranks of pupils and the effect that it's having on the 8th grade next year. We had talked about adding additional hours for the secretary at Bartlett, so it'd be pretty much focused in the summertime and allow the principal to focus on other activity and ease the workload that he faces during the summer. We talked about adding 2 half-time paras at Mountain View in the library. Again, the 2 half-time positions were to try to control benefit costs. We talked about the need for a special education secretary at Mountain View for extra days for that individual. And in sum, wage costs and total benefit costs for all of these new ads is just under $211,000.
Do we just want to move on?
Okay.
Do you want to review it now? Has anybody got any questions?
I just have a question. Are we deliberating or are we going to...
No, we're deliberating. I mean, this is
This feels like presentations.
Yeah, a little bit.
a little bit, but this is...
I agree.
We need to have the presentation again? And that-
Yeah. My question is the same.
I think that they wanted to go over the highlights of their budget. This, how many pages? 300?
300 plus. Yeah.
300 plus. And I think what he just wants to point out, what they're trying to point out is the changes of 300 into this, so the better understanding of it.
Yeah, and I think that was the whole purpose before, as we were saying, it was a little bit confusing. That's why this is here to clarify things a little bit more.
That's it. It takes the information that's off of all these PowerPoints here, and it puts them here. But it is all information we have heard before.
Right. So we don't need to do this if you don't want to. I mean, It's for the committee.
If everyone here feels they need it, I mean, Mr. Karen was the one who requested this. Is he excused?
I haven't heard anything from him.
So
He
I
may have
was just
sent me
curious,
an
I mean,
email and
and I
said-
appreciate Ray's time and everybody who's here's time. In our time, because we have a lot of budgeting to do, so if everyone feels as though we need the presentation again, then that's fine, but.
I agree with Lisa. I think this is really, really useful, and I think we should use it to go through, but I'm not sure we need Ray to walk us through the whole thing again. I mean, if you've done your homework and followed the presentations the first time, hopefully this is a review sheet and an easy reference sheet.
Okay, I have no problem with that. The guy did send me an email and said that he was going to be late, sent it at 6:03. If he came at all. All right, so the normal way we've done it is gone page by page. Do you want to go through 300 pages?
No, why don't we go through
Well,
this?
that's the,
I feel like, if you want Ray to sit here for however long and go through each one of these lines, then.
I guess we're
if
going
that's
through
what
them
you wanna
anyway, though,
do.
right?
Huh? You guess what?
We're going to go through them anyway, right now. Just-
I guess.
Well, did anyone have any questions prepared? You've had the presentations, you've had an opportunity to look through the budget. Does anybody have any, so if you have some questions?
So the last time we talked, you guys had mentioned you were going to hear back from the Goffstown Truck Center about the possibilities for the late bus, and I was just wondering if there are any developments.
We did. What Elizabeth had asked is if we could look at a pay-to-ride option, and that is an option. The gentleman from the Goffstown Truck Center did share that there are sometimes challenges in collecting the revenues from the parents. Often you're not able to collect all of the revenues depending on ridership, and there were some concerns that the cost of the bus might preclude people from riding, but it is an option. I will share that I think we have a little nervous tension about that. The idea being that the kids who can't get rides might also not be able to have the $4 or $5 that it might cost to ride the bus. And one way would be to look at the district to have sort of to subsidize the cost. Ray, you were with me when we met with them. Anything to add to that?
No, I think you've summarized it. So.
I mean, it is possible, but our concern would be that when we think about the types of kids who might not have access to rides and that's a barrier, that we fear that the financial burden might be an added barrier on top of that.
Okay. Okay. But a cost-sharing arrangement is feasible.
It is possible. If you took the total cost of the bus and if the district were to contribute a certain portion of that and then evaluate if you could have a pay-to-ride option.
Okay.
What was actually pretty interesting is they have a web-based method of how they do that. That basically parents have to set up an account. They keep track of ridership and then do like a monthly invoice to the parents.
Okay.
So we've never done it before, but as you had requested, we did inquire.
Okay.
And, I think left unsaid was the school district's liability should collection problems arise or guaranteeing a minimum ridership on the bus.
Okay. Okay.
and what kind of cost savings would it estimate to save?
The late buses,
I mean,
The late buses are 52,000 or 26,000 apiece.
We think it would likely take some time to build the awareness and the ridership back up. This was a program that existed for many, many years. It's been cut now for several years at this point. To have a cost right away, we don't know what kind of a factor that might be to parents. We haven't done any kind of a survey, inquiring if parents would be interested in a pay-to-ride option. We took it as far as meeting with the truck center and getting the logistics.
I mean, I do think it is important to be cognizant of the fact of what your target is. And when you start doing a pay to ride, you don't catch what your target ridership is, if you would call it that.
Okay.
What happens if say if we split it and a student doesn't pay, they assume they can take it and they're left at school. I'm trying to like work it off.
We drop them off on the side of the road.
Well, yeah, I assume you can just leave them there, right?
No,
If they
I mean,
only
what-
pay 50%, they only get half a ride.
halfway home. I mean, the way that the model's set up is no kid would be denied getting on the bus. I mean, that would be the first thing, is you'd have to be able to get the kids home. But I think that there'd be a method built in that we'd put parents on notice that their child is not going to be able to ride. We're short secretarial staff in all of our schools. I think, as the budget committee is aware, we don't know what kind of a burden this might have, but we think it's an important option for some of our at-risk kids.
Something just came to light as I was looking at this. We take a look at the 8th grade teacher. Ray, when we look at we don't have that position now, but when you budgeted the benefits, did you budget them at the max? Is that what you do?
Kate?
We assume a family policy, yes.
Because
Two-person?
benefits are more than 50% of the salary.
Two-person.
It's a two-person for that grade 8 teacher. I'm sorry.
And of course, the same thing with the special ed teachers. Benefits of 75% of the salary. I don't understand the correlation there.
The special ed teacher was budgeted based on the current incumbent in the position. So we have a 1-year contract for a new special ed teacher this year. Their costing was based with the family plan.
That's at Mountain View.
The special ed teacher.
Bartlett.
That's
Special-
currently a 1-year grant-funded position. We have someone in that position currently.
Okay, but a salary of $34,600, but benefits budgeted at $25,000. That's 75% of the salary is benefits.
So that would also
Something
include
lower.
retirement.
Oh, yeah. Well,
That would include FICA.
Health, dental, long-term disability.
I'm-
Yeah.
Oh, it's included in it, but it's still, I think when it's, I don't know, where it will come, it's there, I guess. Any other questions on that front page, on the positions? Anybody got anything on that? Let's move on to the next page. We just covered all the positions and all the locations, so we don't have to go back through the budget for that. Now, is there anything on these pages? Or would you rather do it by school? How'd you do it? What?
I don't know. I feel like I'm going to have a breakdown. I've been sick to my stomach about this all day because the more I think about it on a macro level, if we even go with the default budget, we are looking at a tax increase of about $250 per house on the average taxpayer. I think this is an excellent budget. For a regular year, I think it's very lean. I think they've done an outstanding job, and I think everything in here is needed. But the truth is, the revenue has been falling for years, and I just don't think people are going to put up with this. I mean, as wonderful as the budget is, as wonderful as the school is, I think this doesn't reflect the fact that the revenues are really falling. And I think we need to start looking this in the face and looking at some areas that have been off limits and making some very unpleasant changes.
Well, this budget is nearly $1.2 million increase.
Yeah, and then there's $1 million less revenue. So you're looking at collecting $2.2 million more in taxes to fund this budget. And after what's been going on this year and what I hear from people, and I just don't think people are going to put up with it. I don't think people will take it.
Well, there's two ways to look at that, though. You can go in with an agreed budget with the school board and hope that the taxpayers will follow along with you. I'm not sure if I can accept that, knowing that also, like you, that I'm going to put something like that forward and I'm going to stand up and speak for it. It's tough. I don't know where to go with it. I mean, we're in a catch-22 almost, you know what I mean? What do you think, Brian? Any thoughts?
I'm soaking it in right now. I'm not going to say anything. It's going to take me a little bit to digest it.
Lisa?
I'd be interested to hear what your drastic ideas were.
I don't like them. I mean, I think they're horrible choices, but I think they're the lesser of two evils. I think we have to start looking at administrative costs. I think we need to drop down to one assistant superintendent and not two. I think we got to look at athletics. I think we got to look at transportation at the high school. I think we got to look at paying part-time employees benefits. I mean, those are all dreadful things. But we are spending way more than our revenues justify and the taxpayers are willing to spend.
Don't forget that we do have contracts in place for administrative staff. We are renegotiating 2 contracts as far as our teachers and our support staff. We have looked at these staffing. Do you honestly think we have more staff than what we need?
I don't know. And the assistant superintendent, I love them both, and I hate to. Even before we lost Dunbarton, a lot of people thought, why does a district our size have 2 assistant superintendents? And now we've lost Dunbarton, and so we're even smaller, and we're carrying 2 assistant superintendents.
But it's not about loving them, it's about what they do. And you've got an assistant superintendent who specializes in all the special educational needs. You have an assistant superintendent who specializes in the curriculum development. And you have a superintendent who's overseeing the entire, as it is, just to get Brian where he is doing the interim superintendent job, we've had to do a tremendous amount of backfill.
I'm sure you
A
have.
tremendous amount of backfill.
But it also comes down to how much you can afford. I mean, look, you guys are in a tough place, too. You've got all these mandates that you are forced to do from the federal and the state government, and you don't have any choice about it. And then all the things that you know you should do to give the kids the best education they can. But at the end of the day, if we can't afford it, we can't afford it.
So is your, excuse me, Diane, so is your proposal to, your drastic measures to get them below default? Is that your alternative?
God, I hate to do that, but yeah, I think we got to go there. I think we got to go. I mean, even if you level fund, you're looking at $1 million more in taxes that need to be increased. And you know what? If people don't like it, if there's a huge uproar and everybody comes up and says, no way, we want our athletics, they can go to the deliberative session and raise it up, but then they got to be willing to pay for it.
If they raise the stink, they won't vote for the budget. We'll get default. Like, I've been here 3 years. It's been default every year. So that's what they'll do, right? So your strategy is just to go below default. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I just want to be clear.
There would be 2 budgets, again, as usual. One would be the budget committee's budget and then the default budget. Unless it's amended at the, and one would be, we're assuming that the school board would recommend or not recommend it. So it'd be, that's how that would read on the article.
Right, I'm just speaking to Elizabeth when she said people aren't going to accept it, they're not going to accept it. And I'm assuming what you mean by that is you're just not going to vote for it.
Well,
What I mean, I'll be crystal clear, okay?
Please do.
If we go forward with this budget and we put on the ballot this budget and the default budget, and that's the choice, I think there's going to be a huge reaction. And what you are going to see is a very extreme element voted in across the board to all these town boards, and we're going to end up looking at something way more drastic than anything we're talking about here.
Which is,
Well, it wasn't that long ago where we fought off an effort to cut 10% across the board across everything.
and that's your feeling.
That's my feeling. I think this is a horrible choice, but I think it's better than the alternative.
Well, I mean, I guess where we go now, you're the chairperson, I'm sorry to take the floor, but is to decide if people on this committee agree with you. I do not, but I don't know what other people think.
Well, I think it's a good discussion to have while we're right here.
Absolutely, that's kind of why we're here.
I think that's what we're here to, I think we need to discuss it. Now, are you happy with the default budget?
No. No.
Well,
Then that's what but you're going to get that.
But I'm not happy going below default either. If my choice is below default or default, I'm going to take default. So I've been clear about that since I spoke of candidates night, so I haven't changed. So that's how I feel.
I'm not disagreeing with either one of you are saying. I can understand that, but as I told you, I received calls when I was in Las Vegas when my taxes just went up. That's where I was when the tax bill came up. And
Welcome to the budget committee.
Geez, thank you.
I mean, that's the reality of it. I mean, and we can sit here and talk, but we have to make the budget. So we need to decide. I mean, each one of us needs to decide where we're going to stand on this.
Okay, Joe?
Elizabeth, can I just ask you said if the school default budget passes, that means a $250 tax increase
Roughly.
for the average home. Is that just from the school side of things?
Yeah, that's just the school
Not
side.
counting town?
Yeah,
Not counting
town
contracts
is totally
for
separate.
teachers
Not counting a
and
teacher's
support staff
contract or supports contract.
or other special articles?
Nope.
And would you agree with that, Ray? Is that true?
I think it's early to estimate what the tax impact would be. But numbers typically become available to us in October. That's the time frame for setting tax rates. So in October of 2014, we finally know what this is going to be. We do come up with projections, and I'm sure Elizabeth has developed her projections off a set of numbers that she's working with. I would perhaps like to work with you to understand what you're using for assessed bases and that sort of thing.
Sure. Well, I used your guys' budget, and when we talked before, we talked about, I think you and I talked about this, there's $1 million less revenue. So that even if we level funded, there's $1 million less revenue. So I used the old rule of thumb that Dan Cloutier always used, which was for every $100,000 of increased revenue that you have to raise, it's about a 7 cent on the tax. So that's the figure I use. So it's $1 million. If you look at default's $800,000 over the existing budget. So
Default is over?
over the current budget. Default is $800,000 in addition to that, isn't it?
Default is, yeah.
The one we're talking
The
about for
default-
next year.
Yeah, the default budget is going to be $36,038,000. And I think that we're proposing,
That's different than the 8,000.
there are updates on this summary sheet based on some budget movement. So we're projecting $36,355,000. So the delta between them is really about $300,000, $320,000.
Between the current budget and the default budget?
Between the proposed
Right.
budget.
But I'm talking about between the
current
current
budget-
budget and the default
The
budget.
current budget is 36.9,
Okay?
and we're moving to 37.2,
Right.
37.020. So
The current, what's the difference between the current budget and the default budget?
Current proposed budget or the
The current
budget
budget,
we
the
are
budget we are
operating on
in
right now.
right now.
The FY14 budget.
Yes.
Okay. 35,230, and the difference to 36,355. She's right. It's about 800,000.
Okay, so $1 million less revenue, 800,000 for the difference between the current budget and the default budget. That's 1.8, right? $1.8 million. Multiply that by 7 cents. That's 18 times 7.
I guess fundamentally, Elizabeth, the math that you're putting forth likely checks out. You know, your questions of the lost revenue when we get less revenue from the state, we still have to run our schools. Can we run our class sizes up to 30? Yeah, we can. Is that what we fundamentally want for our kids in Goffstown? That's the question.
It isn't what I want.
Can we go and cut all of high school athletics? We could. How will that change the educational experience? And what will that do to the tax base when people don't want to move here anymore and people can't sell their homes anymore? Can we go and cut administrators? Yep. And we'll have lots of problems that we then have to deal with. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but it's right now your school rates are among the lowest in the state per pupil. I don't know where else we can go.
I don't either.
So if we want to have no high school athletic program, if that's the direction that the budget committee wants to take, it's not something that we think is right for the community. If we want to cut high school transportation, because you don't have to offer it, that's a choice that we could make.
Well,
If you want
I
to
don't
cut an
either.
assistant superintendent, you still have to have a special ed director, and you still have to have someone overseeing curriculum. You could save a couple of bucks by changing a position.
Well, that's why I'm asking about cost sharing for the late bus, and we should talk about athletics and cost sharing and pay to play, because I don't want to cut any of those programs. And if the only answer, and it won't even answer all the questions, but if we can keep some of those programs by people paying for a little bit of it themselves, then it's worth it to me.
People do pay to play. We've talked about this last year. I still have the spreadsheet of the thousands of dollars that parents
You
pay
and
for
I
their
both
kids'
know
sports.
that all those boosters, and they raise tons of money, and I guarantee you it's the same 20% of people who volunteer for everything, who turn out for everything, who raise money, and there's lots of people, lots of parents who don't do anything, who don't contribute anything. You and I sat on this cross-country team in the fall. We didn't pay a nickel for cross-country.
No, but I also provided my own uniform. You saw those uniforms, Elizabeth. It was ridiculous.
I know, they were horrible.
We looked like a bunch of ragamuffins.
Yeah, we did.
My son ran in his Tri-Town soccer.
Yeah, so did
uniform.
mine.
So maybe we should have a cross-country booster. We've got boosters all over the place. We're talking girls soccer, parent expenses, $100, $1,200, alpine skiing, $70, boys varsity tennis, $150. We've got thousands of dollars that our parents are paying.
These are mandatory fees?
No, it's for your booster clubs. Like if you're a
I think
kid,
you're talking about mandatory fees.
right? But let's say you play girls lacrosse or girls field hockey, then you have a mandatory sale that you have to do. You have to sell X number of calendars, and if you don't sell those calendars, then you just have to write the check to the booster club. The booster clubs are helping to fund uniforms. They're helping to fund for some of the extra costs. I mean, this school budget is not, it might scratch the surface of what we pay for these activities. You've got the drama parents that are stitching all of the costumes. This school budget, that's not paying for that. That's not paying for all the different costs that go into our different performances. It's helping. It's making it possible. Mountain View boys ice hockey, that is 100% parent funded. We just wrote a fabulous check so that we could skate with the Goffstown jersey that we paid for. We're paying to play, my friend.
Something's got to give, Diane. I
You
mean,
know,
people have to
I know-
realize that if they want a great school and athletic programs and everything else, then they have to pay for it. They have to pay for it either by themselves or through their taxes.
We do have to pay for it. We do pay for it. I mean, there's no question. But you look at where we are in our town, we have a lot of challenges before us that aren't born of this committee or born of the school board or born of the Board of Selectmen. Our revenue structure is incredibly challenging, where we are funding so much of our services based on the residential tax base. There's no question. We all know this based on the structure of our town. We have a lot of really great services going on in our town. We've got, curbside pickup. I mean, it is absolutely a luxury. We're looking to cut, $1,000 here, but yet you've got $2 million plus expenses in just the curbside pickup.
Well, that's a different department, and I think,
It
you
is.
sat there last night, and you heard there's nothing off limits from last
I know,
night
but I'm
either.
just trying to make
I
a
understand her
point
point,
that
but the point is, we've got to get a budget to the public, all right?
we do.
All right? Now, we've known in the past that we've come up with a budget, and what's happened? It's gone to the default. So are we just better here, sitting right here in front of everybody and say, let's go with the default budget? Is that the answer we want to hear? Because that seems to be, the question is, do we cut below the default budget, which is what Elizabeth doesn't want to do, but thinking that we may have to do, or we all want to go in together and say, we're going to go with the default budget, which is last year's budget, plus contractual obligations.
I guess that's why we're here.
And that's why we're here. So I agree that we've got to do something. We can't afford that. We just can't keep going up and up and up like we're doing. And I understand, and the other side's going to get it too, as you heard last night. So, I mean, we just can't do it.
And it's tough. We've had so much downshifting, cost downshifting from the state. These are all things we're required to provide and do, and you know that over the last few years. What do you think, Ray? Have we seen about $800,000 in expenses over the last couple of years downshifted from the state?
Easily.
Easily, if not a good chunk more.
Brian?
Pete, if I can add, and we shared this at the school board presentation, and I think I shared this the very first evening presenting to the budget committee. The method that we used administratively to develop this budget was we took the principals' requests of what they had asked for each of their respective schools. We then cut the budget down to default. What would we do if we had default? What would we cut? How would we get to that number? And then we intentionally and purposefully built the budget up based on our funding priorities. So the question of getting to default, we've already done it. We've already done it. The difference between default are your new positions and money that I shared with the committee that we reinstated for supplies, instructional materials like textbooks, and a couple of key items like, for example, the network backbone that Mr. Girolamo had presented to you. That's what we did. So if it was the committee's recommendation to take us to default, we're prepared to do that. Will it take your class sizes up? Will it potentially make us rethink and shift positions? For example, the special ed position, hoping to not to have to place children out of district in more costly placements, et cetera. That's what we would do. We tried to present a budget, understanding that the tax system, the fundamental nature of Goffstown, with lacking commercial and industrial taxes, the tax system from the state, really, Elizabeth, I think that's your argument. I hear you saying you believe in education, you believe in providing the opportunities. It's the funding methodology that's been imposed and forced down on us from the state of New Hampshire. Remember, the state was sued multiple times, and they had to come up with the definition of an adequate education. They had to fund it, and they had to develop an accountability system. You know what we get? $3,500 a kid. We can't educate kids for $3,500 a kid. That's what the state thinks is fair and covers their obligation. Unfortunately, local taxpayers make up the rest. We have no income tax, we have no sales tax, there's no broad-based tax. That's really what we're arguing about. We're not arguing about the need for kids. This is not an extravagant budget. Public education is not a luxury item. It's not a luxury item. This budget is sound, it's conservative, it is a bottom line, bare bones budget. Most of it's personnel. That's what we need to do. Supervise, educate, and take care of the kids.
It's not a new problem. You know, this isn't a new problem. This problem's been growing and growing and growing all the time. There have been things in the past that could have helped alleviate some of the problems that school board taxpayers didn't take advantage of. Number one is what I brought up earlier, was the cost of benefits and the cost sharing of benefits. And I'm hoping when I see the contracts this year, that's going to be a big difference in there. I mean, huge. Not 2, 3, 4%. I mean, huge money. I mean, it's going to get down to have my backing behind it, down to what I'm paying, everybody else is paying. It used to be, you went off on yours, it's my turn. It used to be you were a school teacher, wasn't that great paying job, but the benefits are great. Work for the town, wasn't a great job, but the benefits are great. Now, the salaries have come up, but the benefits never change. The benefits are better than anybody else in public system is getting, or private sector's getting, okay? That change never happened. And this is all part of the problem is when you're talking about the cost of education, it's salary driven. It's the majority of the salaries. And when your benefits are now, as I said it here, one $34,000 salary, $25,000 in benefits. It's 75%. That's not right. So we still have to do something. Okay? I sent that message out. Okay? I'm going to say I'm going to go with a default budget when I go to the voting booth. I mean, only because, and I hate to say it, because people can't afford it. Not just me, anybody. I mean, how much more can they afford? Brian, you talk about, what are you telling these people to do? Move out of town?
No.
Well, what do you want them to do? Don't heat their house? Buy bags of flour and rice? I mean, I'm not sure what you want these people who can't afford their taxes to do. Lisa, what do you want them to do? Move out of town?
Do you think that's a fair question to ask?
Well,
Peter?
yeah, because that's what we're
I
talking
don't
about.
want anyone to move out of town. And you know what? And I would put this out there, if this was on TV, ljukes@comcast.net, if you are having problems paying your bill, tax bill, and you have to have bags of flour and rice, email me, because I will hook you up with services in your community to help you.
Yep.
I'd like to meet somebody who is in that predicament, and feel free to email me. Because we always say that. That's what we go back to. People can't afford it. They're eating, what you just said, get bags of rice or whatever. I would like to meet these people.
I would go down to some of the retirement communities and talk to those people, ask them what they think.
I'll do that.
Just to throw it out there, as a comparison, I am a senior citizen. I am on Social Security, and I found it very, very difficult to come up with the money for my taxes this year. And I don't know what I'm going to do next year.
So what are we supposed to do, though? As a committee, it's a good question. I'm obviously not saying people should move out of town. But thank you, Peter, for putting me on the spot and asking me that. Nor am I advocating that people need to buy bags of rice. But are we not supposed to educate our children? Are we supposed to have class sizes of 30? Because I know I don't want that. And you're not going to get the people to move into town who are going to buy the more expensive homes, the families, if we have a substandard school system. Mm-hmm. So what is the answer? I don't know what the answer is either, quite frankly.
I know some seniors that are living on Social Security, like Ruthie said, They had to sell their house, and they had to go find a place to live, and they went over to the old high school over there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's subsidized. The government's paying it. That's some of the reason we don't get some of the money from the government, probably. It's a vicious cycle. Are the kids getting an education? I think the kids at Goffstown are getting a good education right at this point in time. It's costing us money. But like they say, it's not costing us so much per pupil as it is other towns. How much farther do we go? Do you want to cut sports? I don't want to cut out basketball or baseball, but that's part of their education. But we aren't even getting to half the kids that probably want to play basketball or baseball when you come right down to it. That's why we got all these other programs. Peter, I'd like to start and just go school for school first of all, and look at, I'm looking at Bartlett, and at Bartlett they had an increase of $68,486, and I guess
$60,000 of that is that one position, right?
Right, and I guess
It's a
where's
decrease.
Decrease.
It was a decrease.
Okay, it was a decrease. Yeah.
Does anyone need the handouts that Mr. Fletcher's referring to?
think I wrote. So what do you want to do, Dick? You want to go by line
Okay,
by
it
line? or
went,
you
it
wanna-
went down by 68,048.
And they added a position,
Okay,
but that was a cost transfer.
and that's good, but where's the priorities? I think the priorities is to stay, at least stay where we are, right, and not increase the labor lines, the cost of putting the person on. It isn't just 60,000 like they say, it's gonna go up every year, you know? And that's where some of our problems are. It's the labor line is what's killing us. No matter how you look at it, it's 75% or 80% of the total bill. So
What's more than that?
let's set the priorities, keep what we got, you know? I would eliminate the $60,000. I know you don't want to, but that's where you got to start. So let's go school by school.
Bartlett went down by 68. That's not a $68,000 increase.
I know,
Okay,
it went
I
down,
misunderstood
it
what
went
you
down,
said.
and now you want 60,000 more
No,
for a teacher.
It's transferred in.
no,
Is that the one that's transferred in?
no, it
Okay.
transferred
No, on the
out.
paper here.
Transferred out.
On this paper here, right, it was $60,000 for a Bartlett special education
Yeah.
teacher.
Right, that's built into that budget, that presented a $68,000 decrease. So
I
the school
understand
has
that.
taken
So
other
if we
hits,
get rid
other
of
cuts,
that,
other decreases.
If we get rid of that, you know, we're staying where we are. We're not going to go behind any more than we are now. And are the kids going to get an education? I think they're getting an education. Maybe you don't think it's the best one, but I run into them all the time, and I think they're pretty smart, a lot of these kids.
Okay, hold on. We've got Shay, go ahead.
But what I think part of the issue with that too is if you pull a special ed teacher out of there, from what I'm hearing at least, is there's a potential that we're going to have to send at least 2 kids out of district, which is going to cost way more than if we keep a single special ed teacher in there who can help not just 2 students, but right now it's helping, what, 6, is it? 6 or 8 students already? Sending a student out of district is ridiculously expensive, and if you want to save
Have we got to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. We have to.
Have we got to do that?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's mandated. The federal law, yes. You have to provide the student with a favor for your
Wait a minute, you say the federal law says you do.
Yeah.
So you don't do it. What happens? You're going to take you to court? You're going to fight?
Yeah.
You're going to
Yeah.
spend the money?
It's possible.
Whoa, we're getting off track here. One person's going to speak at a time, all right? We got a lot of experts in the room. Let's let, especially on the school side, there's plenty of people here who can answer Dick's questions. Let's let them answer it. So,
I'll make a motion that the Bartlett School budget, right, which is down 68,000, stay where it is now, like they're proposing it, and that we take $60,000 that they're asking here, and we don't fund it.
you kind of got me confused now because you're not leaving it the same as it's face. Because you're going to be cutting that budget would be $120,000 less.
Right.
That's what you're trying to do.
Yep.
Than last year.
Yep.
All right. Now that I understand what you're talking about. I don't see a second. No second. Next. Elizabeth, you got anything you want to go?
No, I mean, look, if we're not going to go really far below, or if we're not going to go below default, then I think this budget is pretty good. I mean, I don't see any point in making this budget the same as default because then nobody has a choice. Maybe I'm wrong and Lisa's right, and people are willing to pay it. Then I think this is a pretty good budget.
I'm not making any predictions of what people. I'm saying what I will do, what my thought is, and the way I feel, and my principles and my morals and my values. What I'm going to recommend,
Okay.
thank you, Joe, is for the school budget made with a few tweaks. You're speaking for the people that you are speaking for. I'm not saying that. I'm speaking thank you for what I'm going to say.
Well, my point is there's no point putting on the ballot 2 budgets that are almost the same number. That's just a waste of time. So if we're not going to go below default, then and we would have to do drastic things because there is not a lot of fluff in this budget. We would have to do big things.
Make a motion then.
I'm not ready to make a motion. I don't want to make a motion to make some drastic, huge cut at this point.
Well, we're at that point.
just across the board?
We're at that point where we've got to you want to make a motion? A motion to approve it as it's submitted?
No, listen. From the last 2 years, what we've done, what I felt comfortable with, I mean, now it seems kind of pointless, given what Elizabeth's saying, is to do our due diligence. We look through the budget. We make sure that, there's nothing that we think is, over budgeted or inappropriate or not needed, and we take it out. Now, what you're saying is you think that this is a sound budget, but the taxpayers aren't going to approve it if I'm saying your thoughts correctly.
Yeah, there might be a few tweaks, but I think overall it's, yeah.
We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of tweaks?
No.
50,000, 5,000?
I'm saying we could probably get it closer to default. The kind of tweaks I'm talking about, you're talking maybe $100,000. And maybe that's worth it. To submit a budget to the taxpayers that's $200,000 over default.
What do other people think besides me and Elizabeth? I mean, there's
I already told you what I
a
think.
of people, so why don't maybe someone else should speak about this?
We?
I think everything, I think they've done a great job of cutting out everything they can cut out. I mean, ultimately, I've had a problem with this for years. We don't have the tax revenue, and that's because we don't have the businesses we need in this town. We don't have the tax revenue that should be here. I've personally seen where, businesses have not come to town because it's been difficult to get things passed through, and we haven't invited business. We haven't become a business-friendly town, and we're not going to make that revenue come here this year, but that's something we need to take a hard look at and figure out what we need to do, because the services that we offer, I like my trash picked up. I like my roads plowed. I like my kids to have good schools. I want them to be in sports. So what we really need to think about ultimately is, I'm with you, keeping down the benefits and whatnot, and getting a little bit more towards where we're at in the private sector. That's not unreasonable to ask people to kind of help out with there, but we got to figure out how we're going to get more revenue into this town to get what we want for our kids. And
Well, we can be on the agenda next door.
Oh, don't even get me started. It gets me so upset I don't sleep at night sometimes.
All right, okay, we're not going to get on that
Anyway.
tonight. Sonny, go ahead.
I agree with Lee as far as that, but, going back to paying your taxes, what Lisa said, there are ways that you can pay for taxes. You can get reverse mortgage, you can get tax lien. Your property is your most valuable piece that you own. If you own it or you're still paying on it, you can get a reverse mortgage, X amount of dollars. They could be paying you for what your house is worth. If your house is worth $200,000 and you say, I want X amount of dollars per month to live on, what they'll do, banks, even on a tax lien, you can come to the town hall, they'll work it out with you, and you'll get paid for the value of your home. When you pass away, I pass away, that'll be the first thing they take off your house, your property, and they would pay your mortgages, your taxes, and whatever. Whatever is left will go to your heirs. Everybody says, well, I'm leaving it for my kids. I'm not leaving my property to my kids. My kids have told me, spend the last day that you live, spend the last penny that you have. That way, there will be nothing left. So the idea that older people, and I'm one of them now, think about our kids, don't worry about it. They don't care about you once you passed away, other than you being your family.
Maybe that's how you're feeling.
No, don't make me go there. No, I'm just saying, your kids will spend your money no matter what. They already do. Not on what you think.
I know, I understand, but I don't think that's up for us to be given financial retirement advice. Brian.
Okay, I've got my thought pattern.
There we go.
I had a long day. So this school budget, I agree, is really tight. I think we can make a haircut to it, but if we take a machete and cut the head off, I think our kids are going to suffer. And there are people in this town that have kids that in the system, and I think some of us represent those people too. I mean, we really have to take a hard look at it. Obviously, I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. It's delicate. We're talking about people's money, people's taxes, but I mean, I definitely see we can make some adjustments, like Elizabeth said, but I don't think it's going to be. If we do the drastic thing, I think it's going to be a detriment to our community. So,
Okay,
that's my.
let's start then.
sense.
Let's find this mysterious money that's out there.
Yeah, I make a motion, we approve the budget that was submitted to us from the Bartlett School as it stands on these papers. It's a proposed budget of
Yes, you can do it either one. And anybody can make a motion to do anything. Doesn't mean it's going to fly. No. No, you can do one school, then go to the next one, and do that one. Huh? No, I'm just saying, I mean, you can do whatever you want. It just doesn't, not really what we've done in the past.
It's on page 7.
Is there a second to that motion, Peter?
No, but I think we're all looking for that number is what did he say?
I have the fiscal year 2015 proposed budget is $2,236,900.
Right.
Is it changed?
The sheet
No,
right
it's the
there.
same that we had on our handout.
What did you have to?
Well, the figure I have, fiscal year 2015, Bartlett's proposed operating budget, $2,236,979. That's what I have.
That's what we have.
Captain's looking it up. Yeah.
It's $2,236,979.
That's right.
Okay, I haven't heard a second yet.
Are we're gonna do the individual schools, approve them one at a time, is that how we're?
Well, you can make a motion, then do you want. You would do the whole budget, you do line by line. I mean, we've done that before. We've gone through, just made individual cuts and voted on them each different cut. I think what Dick has done, he's not making any cuts to Bartlett. He's satisfied with the $60,000 reduction and ready to vote on that.
I'll second Dick's motion.
Okay, the motion's been seconded by Ruth. Any discussion? Dick, did you want to speak to it? I think you already did.
I think the Bartlett School budget that was proposed to us is reasonable, and I mean, the increase is not all that great, and we'll get moving. I'll do the same with a couple other ones right off after that.
Okay. All in favor, any other discussion?
I'm sorry, I'm not ready to vote. I mean, I'll take this vote, but I'm not ready to sign off on Bartlett. I think we should look at it a little more carefully, and at very least, look at the summary that Ray prepared for the school.
There's a motion on the floor. Let's deal with this motion first. Motion on the floor is to approve the Bartlett budget of $2,236,979. That the correct figure, Ray?
It is.
All right. Is there any discussion, any more discussion on the motion? All in favor of that motion of $2,236,979 for the Bartlett school budget, signify by raising your hands. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. Opposed? 1, 2, Joe, you had your hand up, right? You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Abstentions? 1, 2. Is that numbers right? All right. So, Elizabeth, you wanted to go into that lines?
All right.
Into that?
All right, then I move that we cut the Bartlett custodian extra days. I gotta find the line.
Bartlett custodian was a total of $2,850.
Yes.
That would be on your very first page. Of the handout, on the front.
Right.
That would be in building services, probably. Bartlett building service.
You need a function number, Peter.
Yeah, that would help.
10101 2620 00115.
That's why I'm looking. I see it.
Page 1. Oh, here it is. Page 101. It's like midway down on page 101.
Page 100. Top of the page.
Oh, yeah.
Are you looking for the dollar amount, Lisa?
It's 20.
It's 25.
Yeah.
Well, it's $28.50 according to the
28.50
handout.
with some benefits, yeah, it's, taxes and whatnot.
But the probably increases in
And this is the request to add 30 days, is that what it says?
Yes, add 30 days to part-time custodian schedule.
I actually have 3 hours a day for 7 days.
Yeah, so do I.
75 days.
It says what?
I have 3 hours a day for 75 days.
Oh,
It's on the new sheet.
okay, well, I'm looking at the budget sheet. The budget sheet,
says request to add
30
days.
30 days to part-time custodian schedule.
Wrong. You're in the district. We're talking about Bartlett.
Yeah, I'm talking about
Bartlett. Yes.
Bartlett, page 100,
Oh.
top of the page.
How much we do things, or is it just worded differently, or?
Right, you have on the handout, 3 hours a day for 75 days.
And on the budget book, it says request to add 30 days to the part-time custodian schedule for 25/31. Then with the
That's
correspondence.
twice. There's two of them.
Well, it's for like the insurance, dental insurance, life insurance.
Yeah, you have the, yeah,
Like,
that's just the benefit lines that follow.
You're right. There's an inconsistency between the two.
No, it's 2531. Plus
Dollar
the
amount
benefits.
is the same.
Dollar
Number of
amount is
days
the same.
different.
Where's the 30 days listed?
On the page.
I think that's if you added up the part-time hours and collapse it into the number of days. It's still the same number.
Same dollars.
Same
It's
dollars.
$2,850. I mean,
Right.
Was there a second on that?
There wasn't.
I'll second. Second. You want to speak to it?
I don't have that much to say. I mean, this is one of the little tweaks that I saw. It's the smallest school. It's also the oldest school. But I think this is one of the little things that we could live without if we had to.
Lisa?
I guess I would just say for $2,500, it is the oldest school. It's in horrible shape. Even when it's clean, it looks dirty. It's so old. And I think that money is probably money well spent in our schools. And I'm not sure how much of an impact it's going to have on the tax base, $2,500. I mean, overall budget for Bartlett, that's gone down. that's my understanding. So, I mean, I think this is one of those things, yeah, it looks nice to cut it, it looks like we've done something, but I think this is something that's probably necessary, frankly.
Diane?
I just want to reiterate what we've spoken about before, that indeed where we do have a building that is as old as it is, it is difficult to keep clean. And we do have situations where the custodian is not even there, where we don't even have a custodian staff because the hours are short. So this was an effort to try to beef that up, so at least we would have a custodian present at the building and give him more hours with which to do the task at hand.
Any more discussion? Okay, the motion on the floor is to cut Bartlett, part-time custodian, extra days for $2,850. All in favor of cutting the $2,850, signify by raising your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Abstaining? 1. Next.
I would like to make a motion.
Sure.
To cut the $2,500 for field trip transportation, function 2725.
That's on page, 108. Top of the page, am I right, Joe? Huh? Did that get a second? We'll second it for discussion. Joe, you want to speak to your motion?
Well, again, it's just, it's not an absolutely central educational program. It's an extra that seems expensive. It's not essential to teaching kids how to read, write, or write.
Diane?
I just want to point out that field trips do provide an opportunity to learn in a different way. It's more interactive learning. This is something that's been in the budget for a long time. Last 3 years at least, if not, we may be on our 4th year. We're starting to run together where we haven't funded field trips. In both elementary schools as well as in the middle school and possibly in the high school. Your parent groups are definitely stepping up to the plate. They've been stepping up to the plate to go ahead and fund that. That has been increasingly challenging for them as funds dwindle for them themselves.
Motion to amend? To change the amount of reduction on that line to 2,000, so we would leave 500 in the account. Do I have that right? It's 2,500, right? Yeah, so to leave $500 in there.
500 has historically been implemented as a safety.
I'm sorry, Diane, what'd you say?
I was referencing the 500 as a safety net.
I'll second her motion.
To amend. Okay, there's a motion on the floor to amend Joe's motion of 2,500 cut to 2,000. Is that accurate?
There should be $500 left.
Okay.
Okay.
2,500 to 2,000, that's $500.
Okay. Okay.
Underneath the property.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
I just want to back up what Diane said. I just knowing field trips, having taken kids on field trips before, and see how that actually different students really reach out to that, and it's really important to them, and that's how a lot of students learn. And they get the real world connection there, especially if they don't get a chance to go out and go see a lot of different places. So I think it's really important, and I don't think it's again. I mean, the budget was cut about $68,000. So I think Bartley's really trying to put the money in the places where it's actually going to help the kids more. And so I just don't want it to be thought of as not as an educational thing. It's not necessary, because for some students, it really is an essential part of their learning experience, not just to stay within the classroom, because our world doesn't operate just in the classroom anymore. There's a lot of stuff you got to go outside and you can do lots of learning.
Brian?
I will say that the kids still go on field trips, just the parents pay. their pocket at Christmas. I read a check every other week for field trips. They go on plenty of business. But there are kids that may not be able to afford it.
Yeah, I mean, that's it.
Go ahead.
This is more to Elizabeth's original motion, but I recently didn't even say it.
Didn't hear what you said, but-
Bartlett, I believe, is our only Title I school in the present time. So the kids that are served in Bartlett are of lower income. So these are the kids, not only do they need the funding or the budget to do the field trips. They need to get out there, the kids who might not have access, in my opinion, to places that need kids in other schools. So, and my vote would be to not cut it away.
Joe?
I went on field trips as a kid. Did I learn some interesting things? Yeah. Did I learn anything essential? No. Did I learn how to read essential? Yes.
Lucy?
I've been pleased that during this past year, we have fourth graders from the schools come to conference. And it was a delight. And I think they had a wonderful time. And especially the kids from they were my favorite class.
But it's not easy. That's all I wanted to say. It's not an education reading budget. It's about, I mean, education should be about socializing.
I got Elizabeth, and then I got Chip.
The purpose of my motion was to provide a safety net for the kids who can't afford it, but I believe that we have left that safety net in for all the schools, not just for Bartlett. Maple, I just checked, had $800 this current year as a safety net for those. But I got to agree with Brian. I mean, the kids do still take field trips. As Ruth just attested to, we didn't have any very little funding for basically what Joe suggested, level funding, and they still went on the field trip. So.
And I guess I'll do that help what Lisa said too. I mean, when they come on a field trip, they get interested in something, and maybe that helps them want to go back and read about it in the classroom. So it's not, I mean, there's more connections there than the itself. I mean, the whole education experience should be tied off, and it's not just going to be wrapped up in this, we're going to go here and never talk about it again. It's part of the classroom experience to go on the field trip and help enhance what some of the time, because you can't do it.
Diane, go ahead.
Just a couple things, just so you know, there's a tremendous amount of effort on behalf of our administrators to make sure that we take care of the children who are getting also doing some daily programs. So we are very careful to know that there is value to just have to use this the part we do for the children out of schools and in field trips. As we speak, our personal experience for both Maple Avenue, the reason why children in field trips is such a group. Like we were about $6,700 they got there for coming out of the school district and going back a couple years. So that's still really good news to do. And I've heard over and over again from the Maple of the years. Mountain View will do also supplement, not quite the we are doing all those fundraisers that we're doing. That's part of how it happened. But it's not like when you get the checks, you're not paying yeah, you're paying
There's a motion to amend Joe's motion to 2,000. To have any more discussion, have a vote on it. All in favor of the amended motion, signify by raising your hand. Yes, amending Joe's motion to 2,000.
To leave the 500.
If you'd like it, Joanne can read it back to you.
No, but I just want to make sure that we're voting on whether the cut is going to be on the
So the motion is to amend Joe's motion from 2,500 to 2,000. Everybody understand that? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Against? Abstaining? What are you looking at me like that for? Oh, I was trying to get you what you were going to do. Okay. So, the amended motion, now is the time we can reduce $2,000. So, we're now voting on cutting that line to $2,000. Any other questions on it? Any more discussion? I'm sorry, yeah. Cutting it by 2,000 to 500. Any discussion? Everybody in favor of the motion, signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 abstaining. Get that? So that line has been cut by 2,000, it leaves 500 to go. Anything else? In Bartlett? Okay, so we just want to go right back to Dick. Did you want to do something different than what we're to do? And I'm ready to go line by line if that's what you said what we want to do. So I don't have a problem with that. Go page by page. Huh? Go page by page? You got it. Let's do it. Page by page. Let's do it. Let's start right on page.
He meant
Let's
this.
start-
He meant this.
No, we'll do page by page. We're going to do page by page, do line by line.
I meant this. I mean, we can.
No, I'm just, that's right. You know, I mean, that's what it's going to take to get it done.
I'm going to take a vote.
We'll take a vote, how we're going to review it. Yeah, I mean, we just spent how long for $2,000? I mean, it's going to be,
This is a revised version of this. Pilot.
all right, we can do it through this, that's what you want to do. At this point, it doesn't matter. It's done. Do it. Okay, we'll start right at the top of this, of the page. Okay, we're looking at location 000, function 1100, regular ed instruction. The proposed increase is $44,128. Any questions? Comments? Go to the next line. Function 1200, special ed. Here we have a teachers transferred from other accounts, plus 100,000 benefit increase by 27K, professional services, and charter school support of 70,000. That lines up 13.36%, $214,668. Anything there? The next is bilingual, 1260. That line is up by $910. Questions? Comments?
What does that line mean? It's just a bilingual.
You saw the two?
Function 1410, co-curricular activities. Increase attributed to staff benefits change, $13,157. Function 1430, summer school decrease attributed to staffing costs, $6,000, decrease, $6,305. Does anyone increase that? Guidance services, decrease attributed to testing costs, $1,862. House services, increase of $125. instruction, amendment of instructional staff training. Reduced grant funding available causing shift to the general fund. An increase of 54.38% to $23,600. Other support services, technical staff, that's how many people? 180,004 people in that position, right?
For Protect, yeah.
Pardon me?
For Protect, I just wanted to confirm, yeah. For.
4 people. School board, strategic plan development and increased volunteer fingerprinting costs. 7.85% increase, $3,681. District Treasurer Services, $26 increase. Election Services, $28 increase. Next page. Somebody else read for a few minutes, will you? Lisa, you want to take? Well, I was just going to, Lisa or Liz or somebody, I mean, they'll just move along, no? Pretty articulate. You can
Just
you
make
don't
a
want to
motion
read,
to
fine.
approve the budget.
Yeah, you could, please.
Can I do that?
What?
Just make a motion to approve it as is?
Yeah, that's what we said earlier.
There you go. I make the motion. I don't see anything here. I've already looked through this.
So you want to approve a budget of $36,355,252. Wait a minute. Is that what?
Minus $2,000. Minus $2,000.
Minus 2,000, yeah. Yep. Is that what you're trying to do, Lee? I'm asking.
We're doing it on the Bartlett budget.
No,
No,
we're
no,
on
I thought
the
you- I
district.
thought you wanted the
The
whole,
whole district.
the whole district budget.
All right.
Is that what you're doing?
No.
Oh.
No, I thought you were doing that.
Lee was having a moment.
I'm having a moment. I'm sick. I'm beside myself right now.
You got me confused there.
Yeah.
Sonny, what's up?
I'd like to explain again on facilities, repairs, and maintenance service. Page 50, function 2620, 432. Current budget is 1,000, and now it's going to be 168,236
That's district-wide.
District.
Budget.
in the district. Page 50.
So didn't they take it all and put it in one?
Sorry, Sonny, say it again. Is it line 431 that you're talking about?
It's 441, right?
441.
Yeah.
No, that's a 441. Isn't that
Wait a
a
minute.
cut of 119,000?
Yeah, no, 'cause we talked
No.
about
430.
It's the one that's got 168,236.
It's the Honeywell
All right,
phase
yeah.
2. That's what it is.
Absolutely. The big piece of that is your phase 2, the energy management system that we did this year.
Okay.
That has 100% payback.
It does, all the time.
Over time?
Is it 9 years, right? 9.4 years, 8 years?
Yeah, this cost avoidance is going to cover this $167,000 each year.
Right.
And if I can comment, this was great that Ray did this, but it is hard to see the detail.
Okay.
All right, so, I mean, I noticed Sonny started looking through. It is hard, I mean, when you just read these, you don't really know what it's a big chunk, and you're not really sure what it is, in my opinion.
And again, this was just intended to be some of the
An
highlights, the
overview,
dollar
and I get
amounts,
it. And I
based
think
on what was in the
It's
in the
above and beyond
PowerPoint.
what I think we needed to do, so I commend you for it, but it's hard to see the detail of what we're talking about.
I agree. You're absolutely right. So what do you want to do? We don't want to keep going through this, or you want to go back to this? Work with me. What do you want to do, Brian?
Oh, Jesus.
Seems like
I'm
this is
abstaining.
it's a springboard for people. It seems like as people are going through. Is this
I think
a good
we got to do the right thing.
Yes.
We got to look at the.
This is a good
Yes.
springboard.
Yes.
So look at it, you have questions.
We
you
did
know
it
what is
one-
this
I'm
about?
okay with that.
Yes,
I'm okay.
Sound
exactly.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
We were just discussing on this corner that this document is a good springboard that people can look through, and if there's something that comes up, they say, oh, hold on, and they can
I think
refer
that's
to
what
a
we're
larger
doing.
document.
But-
Why don't we just say who's got changes for the district-wide budget?
That's fine.
And then instead of reading through everything, people can just say if they have a change, and if they don't,
I think that's.
I certainly hope they have. What do we have this budget for, like, what, over a month? A month?
So let's see, most changes to the district budget.
Do you have changes you want to bring up? Let's start right over here. Mark, you have any changes? Sonny?
Well, there's one, but I can't find it. It has to do with the cupola and the resurfacing of the driveway.
Is there SAU
The
things,
parking lot.
are they? We
That's
can't change them.
That's SAU?
Yeah.
Okay.
The cupola is collapsing.
Yes.
It's all rotted out. We want to rip it off.
I don't think we can.
Or we want to.
A conversation.
Why can't you rip it off?
It's a historic building.
It's the waters are, it's more detailed than that. It involves the Board of Selectmen, it involves our contract with the, as far as leasing the building from the town.
They don't own that building. That's the town's building. They lease it.
I understand that, but for years, this thing has been coming up, repairs after repair after repair. And now they want them to fix it, when if they take the cupola off, put a roof on it, done with. Why do they want to keep the cupola? It's not part of the registry.
Brian?
I could add to that, at the most recent SAU board meeting, Mr. Labor and I had been directed by the SAU 19 board to go to the selectmen and ask that very question, Sonny, that at this point the building is not on a historic register. It would be our recommendation and preference from a cost perspective and a structural perspective to essentially remove the cupola off the top of the building and roof over it.
Just roof it.
I take offense that I went to school there. I like that group.
You went to school in the White
Tomorrow I'll
Building?
take you out there.
You're kidding.
I went to school in the White Building.
Junior high, right?
Wow.
And then from there, I went to the Upper L, and then from there to high school. That's where
It's in bad shape.
Yes, I understand that, but every couple of years it comes up that it's leaking, I guess things are bad. We keep putting money into it, and nothing, and I realize you people are renting it, but, someplace down the line, in order for the school to keep its budget down or help, it's better off to just put a roof on it, be done with it, and it's fixed.
But as we're speaking tonight, there's really nothing we can do.
I understand, I just wanted to bring it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Because it was brought up in his, when he,
SAU budget.
SAU budget, and the same thing with the asphalting of the driveway, or parking lot, which is a town parking lot. School has to pay for the asphalting of this, when it is a town, facility.
I know who to talk to about that. He's right there.
I mean, it's easy to pass the buck to somebody else, and everybody's complaining that the school system keeps going up. Well, it keeps going up because of things that are dictated to them that they have to do. Just like we talked about before about tax rates and everything. When you have students that are costing you 11,000 something per child to go to school, and the town gets $4,000 in taxes from an individual, and you go through a school system of 12 years, it doesn't balance. Town gets the revenues, the school has to pay for the kids that are in school. So every year, the school system goes up, the revenues comes to the town with the taxes. It's costing the school more money to educate a child than it is for the taxes that we, get from individual people. So the revenues are always coming more to the town than it is to the school system.
Brian, you had your hand up.
Sorry. Can I get a clarification on,
What page are you on?
I'm on page, doesn't say, 9. Function 2721, regular transportation.
That's not, it's not page 9. It's on the handwritten number on the bottom.
No.
It's it's in the very, very beginning of the first section. It's like nine pages in. Nope.
I'd like to break out of this, because on the description here, it says there's an annual contract price increase and the restoration of two-way buses. Can I get the breakout of the annual contract price increase? And
Did everybody find out where you're at? The very first section here, where it says regular instruction, district-wide.
Brian, I can tell you straight up that the late buses are 52,000 of that.
That's the difference.
52,000?
So, yeah, so that helps you with that answer.
Elizabeth?
I make a motion that we reduce that line by 26,000.
Second for discussion.
Can you just tell me where it is again? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble finding it.
All right, if you look on the little sheet, okay, you've got function 2721, regular transportation, and this is the little sheet, page number 3.
Your detailed budgets, if you go to page 54, everything is identified there.
Thank you, Ray.
number, I guess? Where's that number?
Yeah, it's on the back now. Let me see when you put okay, number.
Mine's not numbered.
in there too.
Yeah.
Are you cutting 26,000 even? Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Sounds like that's one bus.
Yeah, one bus worth. Was that 26,136?
I was just kind of confused by that because it says 2 late buses is 26,136.
It's 13 grand for one bus? Okay, well, my intent was only to cut one bus.
No, Ray,
I thought there were
it says
26
two
each.
late buses.
There's 2 late buses at $72 a day.
So it's on
180
26.
days.
I had 52, obviously.
We'd always had it before. Yeah, but we'd always had them, they were about 24 or 26 before, so.
Okay.
Yeah, all right, so 13,068 is what my motion is.
Okay, no, okay. Well, that's not what I seconded.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to retract my second.
All right.
So now your motion is what?
Now my motion is to reduce that line by $13,068.
Second.
So the motion is to reduce lines, or line 272118 by $13,068.
Yes.
Any discussion?
So would this be, there's one bus for the high school and one for the middle school? Was that what the intention was?
My intent was to cut the bus for the high school. To speak to my
you-
motion, I know they don't have to do it, but that was my intent. And the idea is that they've convinced me about the need for the late bus at the middle school. By the time we get to high school, I think those kids are older. I think they're less likely to need the coverage. There's a smaller population because by the time they're sophomores, spring of their sophomore years, they got driver's licenses. I just don't think it's as essential as the middle school bus.
Any other discussion? Diane, you had your hand up. Did you?
No, I didn't.
I thought you were going like this.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Any more discussion? Seeing no discussion, the motion on the floor, as I just said, was to cut $13,068 from the regular ed transportation line. So we would be going to one late bus at $72.60 times 180 days. That, according to this paperwork. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 4. Against? 1, 2, 3, 4. Abstaining? None. 10, 4. So we have cut that to.
All right, I have another motion.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
I got to find the line number. But it's the administrative salary pool.
Okay.
My motion is to, first I need a clarification.
Page number?
42, I think. There's $15,000 currently in that line. Is the administrative salary pool the only thing in that line?
Yes.
All right, then my motion is to cut that, the whole $15,000.
The administrative salary.
You want to explain it, Diane?
Well, hold on, we haven't had a second on that yet.
I'll second.
It's seconded by Ruth. Okay, did you want to speak to it first, or do you want to get a clarification on what? Joe, you're not sure what it is,
Why don't we
right?
explain it first?
Diane, could you
Brian,
explain?
wanna have at
Yeah,
it
the
since you're here?
administrative salary pool, that would be a cumulative pot of money available for administrative raises. You can see that that was taken down 20,000 already.
Was that money distributed this year? I don't have my sheets. Or will it be? Will that $35,000 be used this year? 100% of it?
I'm not, we'd have to probably
Ray?
go
Yeah.
and,
The adjustment was to bring it to a level where historical usage is. So we do spend about $15,000
Okay.
a year.
Okay. I don't have my current budget with me, so my budget.
Okay, now you want me to speak to it?
Go right ahead.
It's brief. Just as in the spirit of what we had last night with salaries on the town side, administrative salaries, a lot of these administrators are already making well above the average, what the average Goffstown resident is making. And as far as I understand, they have had raises from the salary pool for the last 2 years. They voluntarily gave it up, I think, the year or two before that, for 2 years. But they have had raises for the last 2 years, at least 1 year.
I think at least 1 year, but not 2.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was this year, last year they didn't. They gave it up.
Okay. So that's my reasoning.
Any discussion? Any other questions?
I guess I'm trying to. So are they raises or are they? I'm hearing like raises. I heard there were bonus before. I'm trying to figure out what they are.
not bonuses. It would be when people go into a new contract for next school year, if we raise their salary by 1% or 2% or something, this is the cumulative pot of money that all of your principals, your assistant principals, dean of students, everyone sitting behind me, other folks who aren't here, all of those people together.
And if I understand what Elizabeth is hitting this, last night we talked about zeroing out next upstairs or, in the town side. And you more or less thinking the same thing with good for the goose is good for the
I'm not sure if I put it like that, but yeah.
What's good for one,
We're
good for
cooking
the other.
all the
Go ahead, Diane.
I just want to point out that we are looking to pay what is a market value for the same position. As a general rule, our staff is in the lower 50th percentile in comparison to others of their same in the state. So, our averages do not exceed that of the state average. It is important from a managerial perspective to be able to attract and retain qualified staff, but definitely the quality of our staff, the people that we have, are an invaluable part of what makes our district able to do what it does. We do very well, as we've all talked about. We do it for less than so many do. So I just want you guys to keep in mind that having a competitive salary and that ability is an important piece of the puzzle.
Anybody else? Okay. So we want to, the motion is to reduce the $15,250 total. Zero off that line? According to my paperwork, it says, according to what I have here, it's $15,250. Then there would be some associated benefits and,
I think it's just 15.
I thought it was just 15 with associated.
It's 50 goes to something.
pardon me?
It's 15,000 a year.
I'm looking at I'm sorry, 15,000, but then there'd also be some associated dollars with that, wouldn't there, Ray? FICA and stuff?
Yes.
Yes. So it'd be the 15,000 plus associated. Is that what your motion is?
Yes, that is what my motion is.
Any more discussion? All in favor of reducing that, zeroing that line out, signify by raising your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Abstaining? 2. Motion carries. Anybody got anything else? Go ahead, Elizabeth.
District grounds custodian. I make a motion that we cut that line. It's a total of $12,399 distributed. The wages are $11,000 and then the associated benefits.
So if we look at your very first page over here, that's the very first line. Huh?
What is that exactly?
Well, let's get a second on it first. I'll second it. They wanted to do some.
Increasing hours for somebody to care for the grounds, do a little bit more grounds maintenance like the outside of our schools.
Versus what we've done now. So it's 3.25 hours for 261 days. Any discussion? Liz, did you want to speak to it, or? Pretty obvious what it is.
Yeah.
Just an added position. Let's keep working on it somewhere. Okay, so motions to cut the district grounds custodian additional hours for a total of $12,399. No, see no discussion. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 4. Opposed? 1, 2, and 1 abstention. So that carries. That's okay. It stayed here.
That's what I thought. Failed, right?
Motion.
Joe's got a hand up.
If we're going to cut field trip money, we should do it across the board, not just from Bartlett. So we've got Maple Ave here, function 2725, $3,300 up from $800.
You, what page are you on, Joe?
I'm looking at the summary
Okay.
sheet, function 2725.
Wait, can we finish with the district first?
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
This is, but just confusing enough without skipping
All
around
right.
from school to school.
Okay, let's go on. Sorry.
That's what.
Oh, wait.
I do have a question, though.
Go ahead.
Under buildings and grounds benefits, there's a new position listed.
That was the one you just cut.
There's another one that says staff including new position, new grounds position. Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I see what you mean. That's the change in benefits because of the new position, not an additional new position. All right. Never mind.
Okay, we all done with district?
Yeah. Do we need a motion to, did we do that for Bartlett? We didn't, do we? All right.
Okay, so we want to go to,
Maple, right? So no new positions, and most of their increase, or at least half of their increase, is due to the switch. The
moving of personnel.
the personnel moved from Bartlett to Maple.
No, I had on mine was the $2,000 increase. I had a question on page 137. And it was the line I was looking at was support the curriculum, professional journals, staff and student request. I wasn't sure if that was current year's 3,000, it's budgeted for 5,000. My question was, the increase of $2,000 was what of that line below?
Which line again?
Can you restate that question, Peter?
Page 137.
Yeah, and current year's
641.
3,000, 5,000
Right,
books and information.
5,000 increase of 5,000. Now, if you look below, an increase of $2,000, it lists the 5,000.
It's listed, the 641 accounts had been cut last year in every school. What we had done through this budget is we had restored the funding to them. Specifically, this one was for the support of reference sense, science books, social studies, math, trade books. It's any number of books that we might purchase as part of the curriculum. For example, there are new science standards coming out. If we needed to get any new books or new supplemental materials for the kids, this is a line that we would take something like that out of.
So there's not, out of that 5,000, is there something specifically targeted, or is it in general?
Well, it's all of those items together. And last year, there had been a $2,000 cut out of there. So we had restored that based on the recommendations of Mrs. Pishka.
So what did we not get this year, I guess, or what are we not getting that we need to have next year? Increase it by $2,000 is, I guess, my question.
Mrs. Pishka?
I think what we did was we looked at specifically, I think what is new is the K-4 book collection to support Reading Street. So that's 1,000. And then I would say the other 1,000 is between those other two areas where quality children's literature and then the curriculum books that support science and social studies. So it's not as clean as saying, here's the $2,000. It's mixed in between those.
So we're saying the author study and theme supports 2,000. The K-4 book collection to support Reading Street is 1,000. And then there's 2,000 which is support the curriculum and professional journals. Is that right? I'm just...
Yeah, that's a list of items that we purchased within, we were trying to be more detailed.
And if I remember correctly, I think when we were hearing Bartlett, we have to purchase the Reading Street more this year, right? Because we lost the deal on that. Did I remember? Was that the program that it was?
We didn't necessarily lose a deal, it's just the introductory.
So we get the introductory, and then now it's gone. So there was more to support that. So that's probably why there's at least an extra 1,000 there this year.
I'll make a motion that we level fund that at 3,000 as it was this current year. Media, maple, elm books, and printed elm materials, I'm sure.
I'll second.
You second? I mean, we got away with speaking of the motion, we got away with 3,000 in the current year. Looking at the nickel and dime things, that looks like that could be a possible area we can do that at. Go ahead.
The one thing I'd say there, though, is if you level fund it this year, there's $1,000 for Reading Street that they didn't pay last year, so something's going to give.
No, they got they got Reading Street down here at 1,000.
Yeah, so.
And they get author study and theme support at 2,000.
Correct, I understand that. So if you level fund it at $3,000 this year, or if you take it and you level fund it, there's an extra $1,000 expense that they didn't have there last year. So it's not like, so this is an additional expense that has to go into that line. So it's really a cut. It'll be, well, they'll have to choose whether they get some books or not books that they currently have.
Oh, I mean, that's kind of what we're all trying to do, is to choose to do something, right?
Okay, so we're just taking books out of the class, right?
No, you can say what you want to say.
That's what it
Put
is.
it that way if you like. Okay.
I will.
We're taking people's foods out of their mouth. We can say that. We don't like that either, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go both ways. Don't play semantics like that.
But it's really not, because these really are books coming out of class.
It's
That's the
literal.
difference.
Yeah.
They really are. They're literally right here, books in a classroom that are coming out.
All right.
So,
So the motion is to cut that, the level fund that line, not cut it, level fund it at $3,000, which it is currently at. So it's to reduce the increase to 3,000, to cut $2,000 increase out of that line. All in favor of the motion signify by raising their hand. 1, 2. Opposed? I think everybody else. Abstaining? 1 abstention. Yeah. Next.
Joe, you
Nothing
want to
else?
do field
Let's move on to
trips?
the next one.
Did you have field trips?
Yeah, is that where we are now?
Yeah.
What page is that on? Where are we on field trips?
27, 25.
125?
What page it is.
154.
Okay, it's budgeted, current year is 800 and it's budgeted for 3,300.
Yeah, so I move that we level funded at 800.
Second.
Cutting that line by $2,500, is that right? Seconded by Liz. You want to speak to your motion, or?
No, just trying to find savings where we can find them.
Okay. Anything else? Any other discussion?
I've already said my piece, back in the other one.
All right.
Sorry, I just keep thinking back to this. So we take this out and we ask the parents to pay more and more, and we're still concerned with the taxpayers, but these parents are taxpayers too. So when we do this, it's more of I don't know. I just think it's more of a direct cost to them because they're going to pay a disproportionate share of it because it's going here. Whereas if you spread $2,500, that's what it was, over the tax base, it's going to be not even a penny. I don't even know how much less than a penny was it. Every 100,000, or what is it, 7 cents? I don't know. I just feel like when you do this and then we keep doing this and we cut it from here and here, and as we've been hearing, it continues. We keep asking the parents to pay for more and more and more, and this is just like another tax bill to them at the same time too, and it's directed just at the parents of the children at the school, and I don't think that's necessarily fair.
Elizabeth?
To keep it in perspective, ever since my kids have been at the school, the funding has been at this lower level, and parents are asked to contribute, and usually I'm writing checks for $2. So, I mean, let's not talk about, I mean, I don't think you can make it sound like this is a particularly burdensome. I mean, frankly, I'm almost annoyed by writing a $2 check. I'd almost rather write a $10 check. But
We'll make you a special one.
Yeah, I could. But and there is, as long as there's money in here, and it says on every field trip form, no one is prevented from going on a field trip because of financial hardship. You can submit it. It's all confidential. It always gets taken care of. Those students are covered, and we've left some money in the budget to cover those students specifically. So.
Diane?
Just perspective, the reason why you're able to write a check for $2 is because you have parent groups that are supplementing the rest. They're writing checks for far more than $2. And of course, those parents groups are being supported by the parents. So
So I think
it's all coming around.
Jay, do you want to say something?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So I guess that's, if I'm going to really say the share that the parents group is paying, they're asked to contribute more and more every year, which is just coming from the parents. So.
Motion on the floor is to cut line 2272520, co-curricular trans Maple Ave student transportation by $2,500, level funded it at $800. All in favor of cutting that line by $2,500, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. So, you didn't vote, right? So it's got to be 9. Had to be 9, 4, 1. Must have miscounted. Anything else? You done with Maple Ave? Let's go to that huge budget, the kindergarten, that huge one. Huh? Yeah. Oh, man, I can't take you anywhere. Or else I'll get
How convenient.
I got nothing.
Kindergarten, anybody got anything? We happy with that one? MVS? MVMS?
I never did get the printout for that one. You don't have extras?
Sure we do.
I don't think I have. Were you not here?
Say, I wasn't here. Thank you.
Yeah. These are complete sets.
Oh, okay.
We're going to need the folder back, though. We cut the folder line. Thank you.
We'll cut it some more, don't worry.
So other than the district, this is the biggest increase, this school.
Personnel. We had some equipment replacements that were quite expensive, too.
Okay, well, I make a motion that we cut one of the library paras.
I'll second it for discussion, but I do understand why they went with 2. Were you here for that?
Yes. I watched the meeting on,
Okay.
believe it or not, I
I'm just
watched it
asking.
on
I
fake
wasn't sure.
TV.
Just didn't want you to, there was somebody needed to explain it.
Well, my idea simply is that, I mean, it'd be great to have it open before and after school, but I think before school is kind of limited use. I mean, most of those kids, if they're taking the bus, they're only getting there like 10, 15 minutes at most before classes start. It's not a lot of time. We've kept the late bus in, so I could see a real use for it in the afternoon, like a real valuable use of kids in the library doing their schoolwork. I just don't see as big of a use for it before school.
Was there any discussion about, sorry.
Go ahead, Brian.
Was there any discussion about using the librarian that we're training, where we're paying for tuition to come over and help at all? or-
She's already working full-time at the public library.
Right, but
And she's going to school.
Okay.
That'd be kind of tough to do.
All right, I just asked if
No,
there was
I-
discussion about it.
We'll take her.
Well, she's accredited, and maybe like part of that time in the library, well, maybe a slow time, she could come over part-time to.
True. She's head of children's services, so I think she's kind of got her hands full at the public library.
Okay.
I mean, I know they have
I'm
tried to get
fully unaware of what
volunteers.
she does over there, so I'm not I'm just throwing it out there.
I mean, they did. I mean, I did, as a parent, I did get an email asking for volunteers. Specifically, it was from the parent volunteer coordinator and explaining why they needed it, and unfortunately, they didn't get any takers.
And what this too is an effort, because we used to have a full-time library para, and that position 4 years ago was cut. So this is an effort to reinstate somebody there full-time, but without a full-time position, doing the two part-time positions. And this isn't necessarily about having it open before or after school. This is about trying to reinstate what had been a full-time useful position.
Okay.
Allowing the media specialist who is there to do the more specialized work and working with the children in classes that a media specialist does rather than work the circulation does.
I thought when we heard the presentations, though, that there was specifically tied to the idea that kids need to be able to get into the library more often than they are now, and so the addition of the library pairs would allow them to be open before and after school.
You're not wrong. I mean, there is a connection, but just I wanted you to make sure that you knew that it wasn't just about being open before.
Right, it's helping during the school day as well.
Yes.
But one of these positions would allow them to be open for some hours in addition to the regular school day.
It would be supported, yes.
Okay.
Hey, can I ask a question too? I volunteered as the library para or assistant last year, and then I had to stop because I found a job. One of the things that I found though when I was in there is that room is an odd shape, and there are children that they can be behind a bookcase and you can't see them when you're sitting at that circulation desk. So when I was in there, it was nice to have another adult in there to just kind of do, just to check on what everybody was doing and keep an eye on what was going on. Because she had classrooms of kids coming in with their teachers, but then she would have some kids trickle in to get books that their teachers sent down. It was a very busy environment. So is that part of why you want the para as well, or?
That's not where, from a school board perspective, they're coming from, but certainly Wendy is here, and if she would like to speak to it, she most certainly can.
It's more for usage in the library, because right now our library media specialist is being used at the circulation desk to check in and out books. And also looking at the different timetables, what we've been looking at is our usage of the library around lunch. So when the kids are in lunch, which they need to go and eat, the library usage is at a lower rate than it is for the rest of the day. So to be able to open it before and after school, it allows the kids an opportunity to use our computers, use our printers, and check books in and out and not miss instructional time in the classroom. So we were very thoughtful in why we wanted to not only not have the benefits of a full-time position, but also in looking at the timetable that we'd be looking at for the person to come in. We also, I just want to mention, we're the only school that does not have an assistant in the library. We're the only one in the district.
Except for Glen Lake that doesn't really have a library.
Well, right. I'm sorry. They don't have a library, so I apologize.
Okay, I think there's been some confusion here, because when the presentation was made, it was for somebody in the morning and somebody at night, in the afternoon, after school. And that's what these positions are, right? One person is for to come in earlier in the morning to open up, to have the library available in the morning, and one person was in the afternoon. I thought that's what the presentation was.
I absolutely did mention that in the presentation, but it will overlap into the school day when classes are in session. So yes, I would be looking at the times, and what I would also be looking at is, again, looking at when we're going to be able to get our most bang for our buck and having the most amount of kids be able to utilize that space. So it would be during the school day as well, because it would be 4 hours apiece.
Okay. Any discussion or questions? So the motion is to cut one MVMS library para for $7,926. Is that accurate, Elizabeth?
Yes.
All in favor of?
There was no second.
You seconded it.
I seconded it. Remember I said seconded? No. All set? All in favor of cutting $7,926 out of the MVS library para lines? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Abstaining? 1. Art tables, I had the circle for some reason with a note on it, art tables. The 8 student art tables for $4,000. Can somebody tell me what that is again?
The current 5th and 6th grade art teacher is using folding tables in the art room, so we wanted to get heavier duty, solid surface tables.
So 8 tables is $500 a piece, more or less, for each student?
No, it's for multiple
Okay, that's
students.
because
That's
it's
to
8.
that's to outfit the classroom.
Okay, that's it.
We have 2 art classrooms.
Makes
That's
it
one
more sense.
One art classroom. The other art classroom already has the solid surface tables. So that's when they're painting, they're working with clay or whatever it might be. They're basically working now on plastic folding tables that you might play cards on.
Is it a safety issue too? I mean, are these card table things flimsier or?
Wendy?
I would think that if we keep them much longer, that it will become a safety issue. I would be very concerned about it. Because they're not, I mean, they're as well made as they can be, but we've had them for a little while now, and I am concerned about safety, never mind the fact that they're really not made well to be able for the kids to do their projects on.
If you had a kid sit on the table, the table would
It would
break.
break, absolutely.
So I guess from that perspective, you know, arguably it could be a kid comes in, doesn't think of it, goes to sit on the table. It's
Anything else in Mountain View? No more? Let's go to the high school. Anybody got anything on the high school?
Oh, there was one thing I'm not going to do.
I'm sorry, Joe.
Field trips.
What was I thinking?
Function 27, 25, I don't know what it is.
Should be 243.
Mountain View Middle School, page 243.
Yes.
Budgeted current year 1850, budgeted for next year at
Move
6150.
to level fund it.
You want to read? Pardon me?
It says transportation is at the same thing as the...
Yes.
Mountain View field trips, student transportation, field trips.
The requested increase is $4,300 if we want, if that's what you're looking for.
So the motion wasn't seconded by anybody,
I second it.
seconded by Ruth, to reduce Mountain View Middle School field trip student transportation by $4,300 to $1,850.
Any questions?
Go right ahead, Brian.
From my understanding, though, this increase was due to a specific need, like a special needs field trip. monies for, looks like, special needs students.
That was in the district, wasn't it?
If you read it.
63150, there's a special field trip busing for special needs students. I think that is more specific than just field trips.
Page number, please.
243.
Looks like the summer program.
That was to take them on a field trip out to the ocean or something, wasn't it? Or some, yeah, yeah.
But the other lines, I'm just saying the other schools had, it was just said field trips, and this has specific special field trips that I think we're not.
That was a new program.
Not, like we're not really compared apples
This
to
is a new
apples.
program.
Yeah, 1,000 is for the lead.
3,100 is a special field trip busing for special needs students.
That was this is for the special buses for students with wheelchairs.
Yes.
So they have to get an extra bus for the students with wheelchairs.
This is all special transportation for children who might need a smaller bus, either for handicap accessibility or other related individual needs or purposes. This includes our, where it says ESY program, that's our extended school year program. Under the federal special education requirements, we are required to provide summer programming for children who meet that criteria in the summer. So this also includes that.
So is this mandated then by the special education laws? Is this-
Yes.
So we can't cover this then?
This is to accommodate, Ray, where's the other field trip
If it's
transportation?
special ed, why isn't it in special, in the 1,200 lines? Or 1,100 lines, I mean.
I think is 511 transportation? I think what you put before wasn't transportation, it was specifically field trips.
No, it was
called
transportation.
It was called transportation
Yeah,
also,
transport.
yeah.
Oh, it was.
Well, I mean,
511,
if
no,
we
it
can't
was
cut it,
511.
we can't cut it then. I mean,
So why isn't it in the special ed lines is why, I guess my question.
That's a good question.
Huh? Confusing. It says confusing.
Yeah, there is no regular field trip transportation out of Mountain View.
Okay, well, that was.
So, for example, in Mountain View, when they do trips, the parents, or as Diane has pointed out, the parent organization is subsidizing that transportation.
You withdrew your motion?
Yes, yes.
So again, my question is, why isn't that in the special ed lines if it's special ed transportation?
Really, it can go one of two places. It could go in the 1,200 lines for this account at Mountain View. We've had it in this area for historically.
Anything else in Mountain View?
We can talk about the teacher at all, the 8th grade teacher.
We can if you'd like.
This is going to be the hardest to cut, and I think it's going to be the hardest to justify, in a way. I mean, we've got less students. I know she explained about the math. I'm looking at some of the ratios, though, and they're a little...
We have a more detailed overview relative to that teacher that I'll ask Wendy to speak to. But again, just to provide a little context before she does, this is to look at our class sizes specifically focused around math. Wendy?
Yep. You're going to have to share between of you two.
I apologize, we don't have enough for all of you, but maybe in pairs if that would work out for you. Just so you know. Pete, would you like Wendy to come up?
If she's going to speak, yes.
Would you like to be sure?
Please.
Absolutely.
I think we have enough for, is there more than one? There's 2 pages?
No,
That's an extra.
there's two.
Make sure you give your name, Wendy. first.
Sure. Wendy Hastings, the principal over at Mountain View. So the first sheet that you're looking at that has the yellow lines in it, this is if we are to keep our staffing as is right now, and what our class sizes would look like. So as you're looking, and what I did is I bolded the yellow, because those numbers are 29 plus. And you'll notice that some of our sections, if we don't add that teacher, are actually above what the state allows, with having 32, and in some cases 33 in a class. If you look at your second sheet with the requested teacher, which would be a mathematics teacher, you'll notice that our class sizes then are much more manageable to be able to, again, be below what the Department of Ed gives us as mandates, but also will provide our kids with a better student-teacher ratio in the classroom. So without that teacher, we are going to be above what the state recommends with having those 32 and 33. One of the also important things to know is that we are a middle school and we have middle school philosophy. So with that, the kids are on a team where they're a smaller community and the teachers get to know those kids. So it's not as easy just to say, okay, we can have the kids go between different teams. That's not our philosophy. We're a NEASC accredited school. So with that being said, that teacher is really important, again, in getting our class sizes down and being below what the Department of Ed tells us we need to be at.
Wendy?
Sure.
Pete, if I may also.
Go ahead.
It might be helpful for the Budget Committee to hear the different levels
For the math?
of math
Absolutely.
that we offer.
Yep. So if you go back to the first sheet that has the yellow on it, what you're seeing is the number of 18 and 17 that has the asterisk in it, which is Algebra 1. Those are the kids that are currently in our accelerated math program at the 7th grade level. So from accelerated math, they move up into algebra. If you look at the 21 numbers, which are the double asterisks, those are kids that are currently taking algebra at the 7th grade level and are moving on. One of the things that we pride ourselves on over at Mountain View is being able to provide the kids with the math instruction that they need. So we have some kids who are in what we would consider like a regular math class, some of them in accelerated math class, and some of them in algebra. And again, those kids are going to be moving up to the 8th grade. So these numbers are based on the numbers that we have currently at the 7th grade level. And again, this is just our New Boston and our Goffstown students that these numbers are representing.
Any questions?
Sure.
Why does the science and social studies numbers go down from that? Why is that from due to a math position?
Where are you looking?
The first page versus the second page, it looks like.
Why do the numbers go down?
Yeah.
Because when you redistribute the kids into different sections, our math kids are cross-teamed because the numbers are smaller in our algebra and in our accelerated math programs. So because of that, it affects your other sections of your other content areas. That's why when I came the first time, I was explaining that the 26-to-1 ratio isn't a clean number because of those levels.
I don't know if I understood what you just said.
If I can just add.
Sure.
On behalf of.
I'm trying to think about it, and I just.
This question has come up. The New Boston School Board has heard about this teacher request. This is something that New Boston parents are very interested in and concerned about, looking at class sizes of 26 plus for their 8th grade tuition students. So I would just share that this topic has been discussed with the New Boston Board, and New Boston parents are concerned about this.
So I'm looking at the packet that you gave out for your presentation.
Yep.
I'm looking at the page about student-teacher ratio with one additional teacher.
Yep.
And I'm looking at the comparison numbers here. When I did the ratio, when I did the math, and I've been doing it over and over.
Yep.
For the 7th grade, I know we're talking about 8th grade, but if you look at the 7th grade, you have a slightly smaller 7th grade projected for next year than you do. Actually, it's 30 students less than this year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that big 7th grade, most of it's moving up, except unless they're Dumbarton kids, in which case they're leaving. Okay, so when I do the math for that, a 250 enrollment in 7th grade,
with 12 teachers.
Yep, it should be about 21, 22 to 1, correct?
Yes, 21.1666.
Yep.
If I moved that down and made that 11 teachers, it's a ratio of 23 to 1.
One of the problems that you have when you move just a teacher is that highly qualified and certified status to be able to move people around. With already looking at an 8th grade that has teachers who were lucky enough to have those dual certifications, that would be a problem with the staffing that I already have in place to be able to fill that. Because, for example, it's almost impossible to find somebody who's certified in math and language arts or in science and social studies. Those really don't go together and they don't exist. So to be able to do that, I don't think I'd be able to find someone. I wouldn't have anybody in-house already to be able to do that.
So maybe to give a little extra context, this highly qualified that Wendy's talking about, this is one of the mandates of No Child Left Behind,
Right.
of teachers being required to have certain certifications to teach certain content areas. It's not like elementary, like a 3rd grade teacher, you can swap out with a 4th grade teacher. You can't do that at middle school. And it's even more complicated at the high school level. The high school level, it's even more specified.
That answer your question.
Kinda. I find it a little ironic. I mean, you wouldn't know this because you weren't here, but when Jim Hunt was here, one of the main grievances was that he was switching teachers all over the place, and it made everybody angry. And I think it was a horrible practice, and I'm glad we don't do that anymore. But at the same time, it seems odd to now come back and say, 3 years ago, teachers are being asked to teach everything. And now we're saying we can't move one teacher, one grade. I would think that there's no way to shift one teacher.
Well, and again, it goes back to that middle school philosophy as well, is then you would have a 3-person team. So to be able to get all of your sections in, you can't just move one person. It would affect other people in other grades to try to pick up those sections. So I don't think it's possible at that 7th grade level. I don't.
Because you'd have a 7th and an 8th grade each with a 3-person team. Because you're already going to have one in the 8th grade.
But what I would be looking at is specifically math for that 8th grade because I have that Algebra 2 and that Algebra 1 section to be able to pick up just those math pieces.
Okay.
Right. So that's why I'd be looking at the math.
And perspective-wise, I don't think it was reality that teachers are being switched around everywhere to teach everything. I don't think
Right.
that happened 3 years ago. I think it was more to do with, okay, you have these qualifications, this is what you're able to teach, we need you down here because we have this bubble, can you please teach, X grade and teach this, and that's what I'm aware of
Right.
happening. That's my information that I have. I don't have any evidence of willy-nilly, you're a math teacher now,
Yeah.
you're going to teach language arts. Do you know what I'm saying? Is that what you were
To
suggesting?
some extent. I mean, when I sat on the MBF's forum, that was one of the chief causes of complaints. I mean, Brian, you were there. I don't know if you remember.
And
Teachers were complaining about it.
And realistically, the last thing we want to do at Mountain View is go backwards.
No, we don't.
I think
We
everyone
don't.
is aware, the leadership that Wendy has brought, we need to go forward at Mountain View. We don't need to go backwards.
Anybody got any other questions? Brian?
What happens if this goes to default? Will you be able to have that teacher or not?
I think that's going to be a conversation that we're going to have with Brian and with the school board, to be honest with you, if that does happen.
Anybody got anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else in NB? No, nothing good? Let's go to the high school. Frank, you want to sit up front? Oh, Frank's Anybody got anything on the high school? Any field trips there, Joe? I'm looking.
I hate to tell them, but there are.
Field trip transportation.
Transportation.
There are no new positions there, though.
Correct.
In fact, didn't you guys say we could actually cut one on that?
I believe that was 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
That was a social studies teacher that was cut 2 years ago.
Yeah. Last year we cut a one language. Yep.
No, we really haven't hit Jerry Agnett's budget at all. I mean, that's got to be something. Oh, I guess we did, didn't we?
Field trip transportation's on 319.
Okay, I move that we level fund field trips. So from 7,000 to 5,000.
Had a motion? So we're looking for a second on that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Ruthie. Any discussion? Do you want to speak to it, or just, that's what you've been doing all day, right? There you go.
Field trips.
So the motions on the floor is to reduce field trips, student transportation at the high school from 7,000 to 5,000. It's the level funded at this year's rate. So a cut of $2,000.
I have a question.
Elizabeth?
Is this the biology field trip?
Some of it is, Elizabeth. Yeah. Typically, what we've done is just for reference, when there's a across-the-board cut, we just look to prorate each of the trips that are there by that percentage. So it's not targeting any particular trip or group, and we do what we can to find ways to offset it.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion to reduce that line by $2,000, raise your hand. Six, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Opposed? 1, 2, 3. Abstaining? 14 of us here. Anything else? Speak now. Whoever holds your peace. You still got that. I think that concludes tonight's meeting, right? Nobody's got anything else to bring before the committee?
Second.
Seconded by Lee. Any other comment? Any comment? All in favor? Opposed?
Hey, Mark.